see my memory? Well, there's one of them. They say you draw on your memory, right? Well, I think artists paint on their memory. This is a memory of mine from camping so many years ago. But I'd love to do it again. Maybe real soon. Maybe Robert and I will take a drive up to the mountains, maybe Boone, North Carolina. I have a story in this video about Boone, North Carolina, from when my son was younger, when he was a child, and we discovered Boone. But anyway, so I have some memories of those days when we would just throw all caution to the wind, as they say. Take the car and just go someplace. Be spontaneous. Oh man, I need to be spontaneous more often now. But anyway, they say when you get old, the memories are what you have. I'm so grateful to God that He gave me an opportunity to do things that I have memories about. And I'm grateful to God that I'm going to make more memories too. I'm not throwing in the towel yet. I hope. But anyway, so I don't have a title for this one really. But that's all gouache, for just to talk about the art just for a second. It's reactivated art. Reactivated gouache. Do you know what that means? I don't mean to insult you, you probably do. But it means the gouache has dried on the palette and you just put some water on it and you could use it again. It's reactivated. It's not straight out of the tube. And it works like watercolor when you do it that way. So I started this painting, you'll see. I started it like watercolor and then I used some out of the tube colors. But I think mostly this video is me indulging in my own memories, because that's where this painting took me. So that's why I want to take you right now into my memory. All right, let's go. Good morning. All right, let's just do a simple gouache landscape. This is page 43 of my art journal. And look at this, I'm almost filled. The journal's almost filled already. 43 days goes quickly when you're not paying attention to it. I mean, I started before Christmas. And now here it is. The beginning of February. Wow. I had to think for a second, what month is it anyway? Alright, so what I'm doing is I'm reactivating the dried gouache. See, I used a lot of gouache in the past couple of days on that side and also on this side. So I got a lot of gouache that I can reactivate and use kind of like watercolor. The problem, sort of, it's not a big problem, but the problem is that this is not watercolor paper. This is just regular paper. And when I'm done with this particular journal, this book, then I'm going to shift over to another book that is actually watercolor paper. I have two of them. One is a gift from Robin and one is a gift from a YouTube viewer named Deb. And I'm looking forward to actually painting on watercolor paper. Now, I don't want you to think I've never painted on watercolor paper if you're new to this. But I've done a lot of watercolor on watercolor paper. I just didn't have a journal like this book. I'd never had that before on watercolor paper. So I'm looking forward to that. And I have about 90 blank greeting cards also that are watercolor paper. And then I also have some blank canvases, some 16 by 20s and some 12 by 16s I'm thinking about doing something with that too. So I got kind of a few ideas for what I want to do in the coming days. So I want to again just thank you all for your kind comments. I can't tell you how much it means to see nice things written underneath the videos. Some of you have been watching this channel for a very long time. I really do appreciate all of you. Alright, so what I want to do, I'm doing this sort of from memory. I did look at a couple of pictures this morning to just kind of get myself going here, but you know, I've gone camping a lot in my younger days. I would like to say I'm going camping again one day. But you never know. But I've done camping a lot. And you know what they say? They say if you live near the beach, you love going to the mountains. And if you live in the country, you love going into the city. And if you live in the city, you love going into the country. And if you live in the mountains, you love going to the beach. Have you ever heard those things? Like, where you live, like where you want to travel to is often determined by where you live, because if you're used to the beach all the time, which is kind of where I am. I'm in a place where there's a beach like right down the road. If you think about it, I got Daytona Beach, you know, an hour drive away, or a little bit more than an hour. So, you know, I live like in a beach area, I guess you would say. And so going to the mountains is always something that I've enjoyed. So I thought I would go to the mountains today and just kind of revisit some of those memories. And do it in paint, and actually doing it in gouache paint, of course. But the gouache, I'm sort of using it like watercolor, but I don't think I'm gonna stay with that look. Especially the background here, I want this background to look very watercolor-ish, kind of hazy, if you know what I mean. So, yeah, something over here. Little trees, a little river. So, also I wanted to comment on the comparison to Bob Ross. I really appreciate that. That's awesome. Robin and I visited Bob Ross's gravesite. It's not too far from here. And it was very small, and you know, very much like anybody else's gravesite, except it had a few, you know, little things that people left on it as kind of as a gesture of thanks to him. And after having gone to his gravesite, I felt like I knew him. I never met him, and I honestly didn't know him. But going to his gravesite was kind of an experience that made me feel like I got to know him a little bit. And he became more human to me. Does that make sense? Before he was like a celebrity, and he always is a celebrity, so I'm not taking that away. But I mean, I felt like I knew him. You know, I went to, have you ever gone to like a president's grave? I went to Teddy Roosevelt's gravesite in, what is that area called? Sycamore Hill, I think, in New York on Long Island. I went there with my son Alex. And same thing. You don't really know much sometimes about like our former presidents and former statesmen and things like that, but that particular visit, I felt like, well, there was a guy, he's just a human being. I guess going to somebody's gravesite is kind of like seeing them as babies, you know? They're no longer bigger than life. They're just innocent creations of God. And they're just like you and me. They had a life. God gave them a life, and they did whatever they thought they needed to do with that life. Yeah. Yeah, this is all reactivated gouache here. I don't know, maybe I'll do the whole thing with reactivated gouache. I don't know, we'll see. It is interesting how you can reactivate the gouache in such a way so that it looks dark and very opaque. And a lot of what I want to do with this particular painting is to use the blues and the greens. And what you can do with gouache also, which I'll kind of prepare myself for, is you can put light on top of dark, which is something that's very difficult to do with watercolor. You can't really put light on dark. You can, but it's risky, I guess you would say. Not risky in the real risky sense, but in the art sense, risky. It's artistically risky. Ooh. Came up with an expression. It's artistically risky. Maybe that could be a children's song. Artistically risky. She was an artist. She was an artist as she danced. She was an artist with a frying pan. She was an artist in the kitchen. I'm trying to think of a song here. So can you tell what I'm doing? Alright, let's get some more colors over here. Some light yellows and greens. Do you hear those cars out there? Some cars are so noisy. Some cars are loud. Do you think that ever? You ever wonder why some cars are so loud? Doing the tree and the reflection of the tree. So you're painting a scene like this, you gotta do both things, the reflection and the tree. I think I probably will be using some out of the tube gouache just to get some of these lighter colors here. And just keeping it looking like a scene that I might have remembered on a camping trip. So my camping trips, I would, let's see, my son was young, and we would take a tent. Oh my gosh, I get emotional talking about that time of my life because it was such a blessing. That was such a beautiful time of my life. But it was great. It was great. What did they say? It was great. I wish you could have been there. I wish I could be there. I wish I could be there right now. Maybe that's why I paint, so that I can be there. In my mind, they say when you get older, it's the memories that you draw on the most. Well, maybe for an artist, it's the memories you paint on the most. Oh my gosh, there's a line for you. They say you draw on your memories when you get old, but if you're an artist, you paint on your memories. You can use that. Go ahead. You don't have to worry about giving me credit for that. I like that one, though. I'm probably not the first one to say it. I bet you others have said that already. But it's true. I'm painting on my memories. So let me tell you about our camping trips. Let me live in my memory a little bit. So I would take my son camping. I have one story to tell you. I may have told this story on this channel before. I don't remember. But I want to tell it to you. So I grew up in New York, but my son was born here in Florida. And so he had never seen snow. And we had a dog, and our dog was named Mrs. Clute. That was her name, Mrs. Clute. And we loved Mrs. Clute. And one day she died. She died at the beginning of December. We came home and she was lying under the bed, lifeless. And it broke our hearts. She was 15 years old or so. So I guess we should have expected it, but we didn't. Anyway, that was the beginning of December that happened. And then after Christmas that year, we were still, we were okay. We were sort of over the dog dying. We got on with our lives. But I thought to myself, my son has never seen snow. Before he gets to be too old, I want to show him snow. So I said to him, let's drive north and see if we can find some snow. I had no idea where there was snow. And by the way, this was before cell phones. Well, it's before I had a cell phone, I think. I don't think I had one. But the internet and all that wasn't really that. It wasn't that everywhere. Like it is now, it's everywhere. And I certainly wasn't doing a YouTube channel. But anyway, so we drove north. And as we drove north, it was cold. Oh, when did we drive north? We drove north after Christmas. It was like the day after Christmas. We drove north. And we go from Florida to Georgia, and it's a little colder, and you're starting to get that feeling of winter. And we had cold days here in Florida, but we never had snow. And then we're going further and further north. And the further north we go, the more I keep hoping we'll see snow. And then we end up somewhere in the Smoky Mountains. And it was getting late in the day, but we were up to a place called Blowing Rock. And we stopped at Blowing Rock, and there was some snow on the ground. Old snow. Slippery, icy snow. So it wasn't the freshly fallen snow that I was hoping I could show him. But I thought, well, this might be the best we get. So we got out of the car, and we went to the edge. And we looked over the edge, and we just had a good time looking down at the valley below. And it was just such a beautiful, beautiful moment. And in fact, I took a photograph of my son that day, and I did a painting of it, a pastel painting. Yeah, I remember doing that. And he has it. I gave it to him when he got old, when he got married, and he's got a child of his own. That's how come I'm Poppa, because of my grandson, of course. That's why I'm Poppa. But anyway, So we didn't stop at Blowing Rock. We kept driving. But it got darker and darker. And I said to Alex is my son, I said to him, can you get out of the car and go ask how much is that motel room? We stopped at a motel on the side of the road. Well, it was $250 a night. And I said, holy cow. Holy cow, what? How come it's so expensive? So then we kept driving, and we came to another hotel. And this was really a rundown looking place. It didn't look good at all. But guess what? It was $25 a night. But it looked run down, and I said, no way. No way. I'm not going to stay there. That one looks too bad. That's going to be a problem. It's not going to be good. So we didn't stop there. Then we kept going, and it was getting darker and darker and later and later. And we got to this other hotel, and I said, okay, go see how much that one is. And he got out of the car. Like I said, we didn't have a phone. We couldn't look it up or call them in advance. So he got out, and guess what? He came back. He said, it's $250. I said, oh my gosh. And now I'm desperate. I'm thinking, I got to do something. I can't stay in a $250 hotel, and I can't justify staying in a crappy hotel. And we can't just sleep in the car. That wouldn't be good either. If I was by myself, I probably would have slept in the car. But you got a little boy. You don't want to sleep in the car. You never know what kind of dangers you might be making possible. Because people aren't all good, There's a lot of bad people out there. Anyway, I said to him, let's go back to that $25 hotel just to see. I said, we'll go into the room. We'll see if it looks safe. We'll see if it looks clean. We'll just smell the mattress, make sure it doesn't smell, like it's not safe to sleep on. And so that's what we did. We went back to that motel. So we paid the $25, and the girl behind the counter gave us a receipt, and the receipt was on a piece of loose leaf paper. I know, isn't that crazy? I still have it somewhere in some memory book I put together. Yeah, I still have that. And so anyway, she gave us the receipt, $25, and I said to Alex, well, let's go to the room. If it's no good, then we won't stay there. I don't know what we'll do. We'll probably sleep in the car. I probably surrendered to that idea, even though I didn't like that idea. All right, getting some fresh paint, some out of the tube paint. So far, this has all been reactivated paint. Reactivated, but now I'm using fresh. So we go into the room, and it was very basic, but it was warm, and it was cold outside. Keep in mind, this is between Christmas and New Year's, so it was very cold, and we were up in the mountains. And yes, the room was warm. That was the first good thing. The bed smelled clean. Yes, we successfully had a clean room that was warm, and the TV worked. It's like, oh my gosh, this is where we're going to stay. So we stayed there with the intent of staying there one night, just one night. So, and we had at that time, the car I had was, I don't know if you remember the Tracker. Do you remember that car called the Tracker? Well, mine was called a Sidekick. I think it was a Buick, or I don't know what it was now. I can't remember. But anyway, we stayed there, and because I had a Sidekick, well, here's the part of the story that applies to. The Sidekick had a convertible top. It had a cloth top. Well, I was worried that, during the night, because I didn't know anything about this place. It looked like it might be one of those hotels that derelicts stay in. I don't even know what a derelict is, to be honest, but that's the best word I can come up with right now. So it looked like a place that might not be safe, put it that way. And I thought, well, somebody's going to try to steal our stuff. We didn't have much, but we had stuff in the car. We didn't have a dog with us, so that was good. But anyway, so I kept looking out the window. I kept waking up. I couldn't just go to sleep. I had to keep one eye open, so to speak. And I kept looking out the window. And at one point during the night, it started snowing. And I thought this might be the only time he gets to see snow. So I woke him up. I said, Alex, wake up. Wake up, it's snowing outside. Wake up. So he got up. He was all dreary-eyed. He didn't look like he was happy to be awakened. But I said, no, I know you want to sleep, but you got to see this because you might not see it again. And so we went outside and stood in the falling snow. And then during the night, it snowed and snowed and snowed. It snowed so much so that by the morning we were ready to go home, back to Florida, right? Well, guess what? It was too deep. We started driving, and at one point the car started drifting, which is not good. You don't want a drifting car, So you want to be drifting on the mountains especially. So I said, well, do you think you can reach into that box? Because we put the key for the room. We put the key into the box to sign out. I said, do you think you can reach into that box and get the key back out? He said there was no lid on that box. I said, no lid? Oh my gosh. So he was able to get the key out, no problem. And we went back into the room. And then as soon as we could, I went downstairs and I told the lady, we need to stay another night because of the snow. No problem. So we stayed another night. And that day, that day, we had a whole day up there. You see what I mean? And I said, I guess I asked her, or maybe we went out to eat, and I asked somebody in one of the restaurants, is there a place where we could go sleigh riding? Like, is there a place that maybe rents out sleds, whatever? And they said, well, there's a ski lodge up the road. So let me tell you where this was. This was Boone, North Carolina. I fell in love with Boone that trip. So we went to this place called a ski lodge, which it was a ski lodge. And they didn't have sleds to rent, but they had snowboards, and they gave snowboard lessons. So I paid for Alex to get a snowboard lesson, and he was out there in the frigid cold, and he was practicing, learning how to snowboard. Isn't that cool? This is a kid grew up in Florida. Never went snowboarded before. This was all new to him. New to me too. I've never done it either. I used to go sleigh riding when I was a kid, the one you lay down on your belly and you go down the hill. But there he was. He was snowboarding, and it was just such a great day. We just had so much fun that day, and it's a memory that I have forever, and I'm sharing it with you now, and I talk about it quite often. The time we went to see the snow. And there was a time in the summer, a couple years later, where we went on another road trip, and we were up in the Carolinas, and we had a few detours and stuff like that. We just had some fun, and we found ourselves in this town, and I said, boy, this looks familiar. Is Is this the same town we were in when it snowed? So keep in mind, one thing I need to tell you is that we didn't know the name Boone. We didn't know that we were in a town called Boone. But it was. It turned out that the town we were in the summer was the same town that we had been in that wonderful winter. Yeah. So there's my memory I wanted to share with you. And that's what this place sort of reminds me of. The river that was there. It is fun to go camping. Oh yeah, so that wasn't a camping trip story, was it? No, that was a snow story. But our camping trips, we would usually take a tent and basically just rough it, but not really rough it. Not like some people do. We would find KOAs, so I know that's not called roughing it, but for us, for me it was. For me it was roughing it. Alright, let me get a little smaller brushes. Let me get a smaller brush. There's a teeny tiny brush. Let me put some light on this tree here. Some light coming in from the side. So what I used to do when we would camp, we would sleep in the tent, of course, but sometimes the temperature would be not too good. Sometimes it was too hot. And those little cabins that KOA has, guess what? They have air conditioners in them. Some of them do. So I would often go back to the office at the campground, you know, and I would say, hey, can we rent one of those cabins? And if they were available, of course. Yep, we would rent those cabins. One of my most memorable trips was to the city of Quebec. I want to go back there with Robin. I want to show her Quebec. We even learned how to speak French. A little bit. Just enough, you know. Not really well. But put it this way. We learned how to say good morning. We learned how to say, where's the bathroom? We learned how to say hello. We learned how to say, I don't speak French. We learned how to say thank you and yes and no. We learned what the word was for exit and stop, because those were important words if we're driving someplace. Yeah. So those are some fun stories I wanted to share with you. And that's what this painting is kind of about. It's kind of about fun memory. Going to a beautiful place. And you know, now when I go camping with Robin, I will take the paints with me. We haven't gone camping in years. I hope we go again. This year is my year of getting back into a healthy place physically. I think we're both getting better at the health thing. So a couple of little lines here just to create that look of water, and then I think I'll be done. In fact, I think I am done. So there's today's painting. It's a memory. Today was a day of memory, just to remember a great time I had up in North Carolina so many years ago. All right, thank you for watching. Thank you for your kind words, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.